Welcome to Guru Trader video for Wednesday, November the 10th, 2010. Here's the 6 market movers that we're watching today. All of these are first-time mentions. The first 5 are traded on the TSX Venture Exchange, all resource related, and the last one trades on the NASDAQ Small Caps. On the TSX Venture, first symbol BTR BonTerra Resources Inc. 32 up 4. Another new symbol ORM Oremex Resources Inc. 26.5 up 1. LNG LNG Energy Limited 42 up 3. MMT Mart Resources Inc. 68 up 3, and URA Anglo-Canadian Uranium Corp. 15 up 3, and lastly on the NASDAQ small cap following BNVI, first time mentioning Bionovo Inc. 131 up 30. Let's take a closer look at these stocks. Alright, since QE2 was announced a little over a week ago, these gold and silver markets have been on fire, same with oil. That's all we've been mentioning because that's where the action is. And similarly today, there's 2 golds, 2 oils, and then actually another gold, all on the venture exchange. And then lastly, on the small caps, we got a little pharmaceutical or biotech company that we might want to take a look at. Anyway, the first symbol, BTR BonTerra Resources Inc. 32 up 4, 5 million shares traded out of 39 million. That's fairly tight actually. 12 million market cap. 52-week high was 33 cents, which it did yesterday. The low 7.5. So there's, here's that pattern you're going to see time and time again. They run up from January to April or May. Sell in May, go away. Sure enough, there you go. Go sideways over the summer, and they're bumping up again. So that's happening. But actually, this type of year is actually when I like to, I like to take some off the table going into December because things tend to dry up and quieten up when everybody's adjusting their year ends and people are doing tax law selling on certain names. That's when I like to pick my names and companies that I like that are beaten up a little bit and step in. So anyway, I'm just making some adjustments and not suggesting anything, just throwing that out there to just be careful. Anyway, so this BonTerra 32 up 4, it all I saw in there was this mention here: new fast-growing mining camp in Quebec sees BonTerra drill 17.06 grams per ton gold over 13.5 meters, 21.24 grams over 7.73 meters in this Mining Journal review. There's another release here: BonTerra receives drill assays as high as 77.8 grams per ton gold. So you might want to look into that. I've just started looking at the company as an interesting spec here, and it's been starting to break out. Actually, let's look at the longer term chart on BonTerra for 5 years. Went 2009, bumped up to 60, kind of blew up and hasn't done anything since. But here we got a, I don't know if you want to call that a saucer at this point. Let's look at the 1 year. It's hard to tell. Anyway, it's breaking above levels where it was even earlier in the year when the resource stocks were hot. So, maybe there's something specific to this company that's coming. I'd call them and find out if they're drilling and how much more activity to expect between now and Christmas, and especially between January and April. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that one. Another new symbol, ORM Oremex Resources Inc. 26.5 up 1, 4% move. A little over 4 million shares traded out of 82 million shares outstanding. $21 million market cap. The 52-week high on this was 27 cents, which it did yesterday. The low was 5.5. There's that same pattern, sold down from May, flatlined over the summer. Now they're moving out. Now you could say that has to do with the price of gold, but gold's been strong all year long, even throughout the summer. So there is a cyclical nature to these resource stocks when they tend to play from January to April or May, and then they go quiet over the summer, and then everybody regroups in the fall. So sure enough, that seems to be happening. November the 3rd, they announced Oremex extends gold mineralization at Santa Catalina project, and that's in Sonora, Mexico, and they talk about results from additional channel sampling and mapping. But I want to know if there's any drill results. Don't have time to read all that. I would call the company and find out what they're doing. Find out if there's any money in this company to do any drilling. Are they going to be doing any financings? They mention about, Canadian-based exploration company with a focus on the acquisition and development of mineral properties in Mexico. That's their focus. Their Tegemin project has an inferred mineral resources of 50.8 million ounces of silver in a total of 22.6 million tons, grading silver equivalent of 69.8 grams per ton. They mention the Snowden mining industry consultants completed preliminary assessment study demonstrating that the project can support a 10,000 ton per day open pit heap leach mining operation. So it sounds interesting at first glance. I'm going to keep an eye on it. The stock's been to $1 before, blew up with the market here, and is to a little bounce here, but really needs to break out. And I don't know if this is the start of something or one day blip, but because this is kind of a downward stair step. So let's see what this one does, if this volume continues and if there's any news coming. So it's on my radar screen. LNG Energy Limited, 42 up 3, 7% move, 6 million shares traded out of 257 million. Little top heavy, so 108 million market cap. The 52-week high is 46 cents, which it did on April the 14th. There's the sell down sideways over the summer, and the low was 17 cents, which it did on November 20th of last year, 2009. So seasonally, this is when I don't know if you can make any assumption there, but anyway, this one here is not at its 52-week high, but has been ticking up a little bit, so I'm going to start keeping an eye on it to see if there's any follow through on that volume. If you're looking under our news here, when you see this Golar LNG Limited, there's another company that for some reason their news is getting grouped together with LNG Energy's news, so you have to look for their news releases like this one. LNG announces stock option grant, new executive vice president. And I just want to open up one of these to see where they're focused on. Yeah, they have focused on developing oil and gas reserves in Papua New Guinea, Poland, and the U.S. They hold a 100% interest in approximately 5.5 million acres of prospective oil and gas properties in Papua New Guinea. They have a 20% interest in approximately 730,000 acres of a shale gas exploration project in Poland with some other companies, and 100% net interest in BWB Exploration, which holds approximately 2,800 acres of oil and gas leases in Carter County, Oklahoma, estimated 65,000 acres of leases in the Black Warrior Basin of Mississippi and Alabama. So, they've got their fingers in a number of different pies here. Very interesting. The 5-year chart on the stock, the stock 2006, 2007 ticked up to 60, up to 80, blew up, and then there's a bit of a build here since 2009. So I'll keep an eye on that one. Maybe, you might want to look at some oil and gas as these prices tick up. I noticed even natural gas was back over $4 again. So anyway, in the same vein here, MMT Mart Resources Inc. 68 up 3, 4% move, 2.7 million shares traded out of 335 million. Again, that's a little top heavy. That's why we probably haven't mentioned this one before. I do remember this one has come up previously, but hasn't made the cut. There's just been other stocks that ranked higher. So this one regularly is active. I just know from memory on that one. And this one made a 52-week high today, breaking the 65-cent high that it did yesterday. The low on this one was 9 cents, which it did November 27th. Look at this nice build. Higher highs, higher lows, no wild spikes. Not quite a 45-degree angle on it. Anyway, this one here, they put out news on the November the 9th, 6 well drilling update. And they're focused, I think, in Nigeria. The Co-Ventures Midwestern Oil and Gas Company, their Umasadej Field, and SunTrust Oil Limited. Please put operations update on the UM6 well located in the Umasadej Field. I glanced this over. They're talking about total drilling depth of 8,750 feet. They talk about preliminary results. You're going to have to read that. It's technical, and especially in oil and gas, you gotta. I even have a hard time interpreting sometimes what they're saying. But anyway, I'll just read the about. They're an independent international petroleum company focused on drilling, developing, and producing oil and gas from low-risk, proven petroleum properties in Nigeria, West Africa. They're currently producing that Umasadej field along with Midwestern Oil and Gas and SunTrust Oil. They own 2 land drilling rigs, has strong local relationships and experience, and is evaluating additional proven, undeveloped opportunities in Nigeria. Looking at the long-term chart on Mart. Okay, let's look at the 10-year chart on this one actually. Yeah, this, up to $1 back, and there's a nice build here again since 2009. So might be time to look at some oil and gas plays. Not sure. And lastly, on the venture exchange, URA Anglo-Canadian Uranium Corp. 15 up 3, 25% move. Keep in mind that's only 3 cents. Almost 2 million shares traded. $6 million market cap. Just a shell at this point. 43 million shares outstanding. The 52-week high was 14 cents, which it did yesterday. The low was 6.5, which it did July the 2nd. So been dead over the summer. I don't know if this is just a blip or if something's building here. This one seems very early at this point. So I'd find out what they're doing. On the 9th, they put out a news release, acquisition of additional gold silver claims at Lucky Boy Gold Project. That's in BC. They have there's additional. They talk about other properties around and past production on similar properties. You'd have to read into that to try and qualify it. I haven't tried to. So they talk about past exploration beginning in the 1920s, so on and so forth. Now keep in mind they only paid $1,000 and 100,000 common shares for these additional claims. Now they mention here that they're a junior mineral exploration company with uranium, copper, and gold properties in Quebec, Colorado, Utah, British Columbia, and Yukon. So and they have their website there. So anyway, that's one that just popped up today. Let's see if there's any follow through on this, if it builds or if it's just a one-day blip. This stock has been to $1 before, back in 2007. It's been going sideways now for the last few years, so maybe they're ready to push it again. And lastly, on the NASDAQ small cap, BNVI showed up today. Bionovo Inc. 131 up 30% move. 2.6 million shares traded out of 21 million. That's significant. $28 million company. The 52-week high was 380, which it did on January the 14th, and it kind of went sideways and sold down since then, bottoming out on November the 1st, just a week ago, at 88 cents right here. So I don't know if this is just a bounce off the bottom. They're trying to keep. I don't know if they're trying to keep their NASDAQ listing, if they're trying to do a financing, but I did notice a mention in here. Bionovo to raise $3 million through registered direct offering on October the 1st, and they mentioned 2.7 million shares at a price of $1.10 per share. And then there's warrants here, exercisable at $1.64, so keep that in mind. So, but the news today was the FDA approves Bionovo's clinical development plan for Minerva, and that's related to, I think, menopause and hot flash, and it has other cancer-related treatments. I'd read that over. Be careful about these biotech and pharma stocks. They tend to be very active, very volatile traders, and subject to all these FDA approvals and everything. But anyway, let me read there about pharmaceutical company focused on the discovery and development of safe and effective treatments for women's health and cancer, markets with significant unmet needs and billions in potential annual revenues. And they talk about biology of menopause and cancer to design new drugs derived from botanical sources which have novel mechanisms of action. So that's what they're doing. I'm watching it on the technicals. I want to see if there's any follow-up. I want to see what kind of news flows coming out of this company. So I'm understanding it from the technical side. So anyway, that one popped up today, so we'll keep that one on our radar. That's about it for today. Do your homework, trade safely, and we'll talk with you next week. Guru Trader videos and tweets are daily snapshots of 5 to 7 very active small and microcap stocks from all North American stock exchanges. We simply track stocks that are trading up significantly on news or making new highs on very high volume without any further consideration of company fundamentals. The point is to save time by focusing on only those stocks that are moving right now. Guru Trader symbols come from filtering market movers and from subjective observations. Our software cross-references today's volume actives, percent gainers, and dollar gainers, which are filtered down to just lower price stocks. We then look at each stock's charts for apparent uptrends and news headlines for obvious one-day only events to exclude, like a buyout, or for longer-term growth-related news like financials, drill results, patent approvals, etc. to include. This is similar to how many traders look for new stocks as a starting point for further research with their financial and investment advisors. This is not an advisory service, and conflicts may exist as we sometimes take positions, or featured stocks may have bought online advertising or IR support services. Any content published by Investors Guru Small Cap Stock Observer is subject to the terms of our privacy policy and disclaimer at investorsguru.com. For our other small cap stock channels, follow Twitter's Guru Trader tweet in real time on your PC or mobile device at twitter.com/investorsguru. Subscribe to watch YouTube's Investors Guru video channel at youtube.com/investorsguru. Search Investors Guru at facebook.com and add us as a friend to see our videos, tweets, etc. that are all synced to post on our wall. It's free to sign up at investorsguru.com stock community for comprehensive quotes, newsletters, profiles, forums, etc., or to update your portfolio, watch list, alerts, and news by email preferences. Thanks for watching.